Get your win at wallacewins.com.
Michelle West is a partner at Robinson Calcagnie, focusing her practice on trucking accidents, auto collisions, unsafe premises cases, traumatic brain injuries, amputations, spinal cord injuries, other catastrophic personal injury, wrongful death, and product liability matters. Michelle is also the current president of the Western Trial Lawyers Association.
True.
And president of the Orange County Trial Lawyers Charities. But most of all, a dear friend, and I'm very excited to have you in studio. Michelle, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I have been watching your podcast and I've been like, what do I need to do to get on this podcast so I can hang out with my good buddy, Brad?
Yeah.
Because I love spending time with you.
Only come to find out, the only thing you need to do is just send me a text message and it was done.
Exactly. I went on, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yay.
It actually makes my job easy because it's not only cool to have people, reach out, but also like to have good friends on the podcast. We were just talking before, podcasts are supposed to be just informal, relaxed conversations. And it's easier to do that when you're with somebody that you know and that you've spent a lot of time with and respect a ton. And I'm interested to learn more about you, even though I know a lot about you already, and to have all of our listeners learn more about you and see where this goes. So you ready?
Ready. Let's do it.
All right. In true Wallace Wins podcast fashion, we're going to start off today's podcast with a little icebreaker that we like to call Rapid Fire.
Okay.
All right. Ready?
Ready.
Coolest place you've ever been?
I really do love Jackson, Wyoming. I love it. I just think the Tetons are amazing nearby and like Jenny Lake. I mean, it's one of my happiest places ever. It is gorgeous right here in the US of A.
There we go. Best sport to watch?
Oh, I'm a basketball fan. I love basketball.
NBA or college?
I used to like college, but honestly, I love the NBA. I'm a Clippers fan. I grew up a Lakers fan. My parents were both diehard Lakers fans. But for some reason, right when Blake Griffin came and the Clippers, I started to get excited by the Clippers. And then I was a courtside season ticket holder with a friend.
Wow.
And I love them.
Movie you've seen more than any other?
I absolutely adore Clueless. It is absolutely genius.
Favorite time of the day?
I love the evenings. I love evening because it's like, that's when you, honestly, if you're going to go for a run or something, I love to go on a run.
First band you saw live?
Oh my gosh, it was The Cure.
Best city you've ever lived in?
I mean, Santa Monica. I love Santa Monica. I live in Costa Mesa now, but Santa Monica is just gorgeous.
Best compliment you've ever received?
I love to do karaoke, so when I sing, I like to hear that I have an okay voice, so that makes me very happy.
Biggest pet peeve?
I don't like people who are mean and make other people's days bad. I don't like it.
Most famous person you've ever met?
I mean, I have met some former presidents and the vice president. I met Kamala Harris and Bill Clinton. The person who I was excited to give a high five to a few years ago was Charles Barkley. That was exciting.
All right. Shout out to Charles Barkley. Favorite sports team?
Dodgers. I am a absolute Dodger fan. I love the Dodgers.
All right. What are you listening to right now?
I just listened to a Freakonomics podcast on the way up here, which was pretty good.
And finally, window or aisle seat?
Window, so you can take a nap always. Always.
No brainer.
Of course.
Love it. All right. And that has been Rapid Fire. Well done. Nice way to get the party started. Get a little warmed up, a little relaxed.
It makes me want to go to sports. That's all it makes me want to do. Let's go to a game.
Yeah. It also makes me want to convert you back to being a Laker fan.
The Clippers are so fun. I'm telling you. We'll go to a game. It's so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, you're a great attorney, but I don't know that you can convince me of that argument. I'm too ingrained in the purple and gold.
You can love both. I know it. I do.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into it. Obviously, we know each other through some charitable organizations and through some consumer attorney groups and social circles of attorneys that do what we do representing injured people. But you practice out of Orange County at a big firm called Robinson Calcagnie, and you're a partner there. Tell us a little bit about how long you've been at the firm and what kinds of cases you focus your practice on currently.
Sure. So the firm has been around for decades under Mark Robinson. It's Mark Parker Robinson Jr. He just was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award through ABOTA. That's the American Board of Trial Advocates, which is the elite group of trial attorneys, as you know. He is a great leader of the organization. I've been there for 16 years now. And the great thing about working there, and I'm sure you feel the same way, which is why we do what we do, is we have the great luxury of helping people. And the reason I went to law school was to help people. And I know that sounds like, I truly went to help people. You don't do this job unless you really want to work hard to help people. And we definitely get to help people there. It's client first representation 100% of the time. And that's why I love working there. I have been a partner since, I think, 2016, and I have gotten to work on a wide variety of cases, as you read in your intro. And even as you're reading the list, I can think back to, a trial from 10 years ago now where it involved a brain injury from a trucking accident where, we went to trial. They never offered more than $600,000. That made it very easy to go to trial. The jury disagreed with their decision, and we were able to get almost $12 million at trial. And
excellent.
But the difference, speaking of Laker fans, that client was a huge Kobe Bryant fan, like a huge Laker fan. And I'll never forget, he loved the Lakers so much. And you remember all of your clients, whether it was 10 years ago or whether it was last month. And it's just a great firm to work at because you get a variety of cases and you can help people from all walks of life and all over the country. Most of my cases are in California, but I have also done, I've been counsel and pro hoc in all over the country. I used to do fentanyl patch litigation. Believe it or not, that was several years ago now, but we would make sure that the dangerous patches that were on the market then were changed. The design was changed. That litigation is now no longer. And I feel good about doing the work that we did to change products that make it safer for everybody. So it's just a great firm where you get to make a real impact in people's lives.
And your firm is what would be considered in our industry like one of the bigger firms that handles not only, serious injury, catastrophic injury, wrongful death, individual, personal injury cases, but also, to your point, some class action stuff. And I imagine is the type of firm that attracts a lot of referrals from solo attorneys or smaller law firms that might have a class action or a mass tort that they want to wrap up into, a bigger firm who's in a leadership position, or they may want to bring in a bigger firm on a bigger personal injury case because of the time and experience and expense that's required to litigate and prosecute. So talk about your relationship in terms of having that responsibility to, take have them pass the torch of their case on to you and working with those referral attorneys and what that's like in your practice right now.
And you're right. That's a big part of what we do. So I would say on a daily basis, it could be, almost 30 to 40% of each day, because there are people who are reaching out to us every day. I have a potential class action. I have even an individual injury case, what we call at the firm a one-off case, where they get to a point where they're up against MSJs, they're up against,
expert designation.
That's exactly
trial
right.
prep.
They want the leadership, they want the war chest, and we do get that a lot. We do come in later on in the case, evaluate it and see what we can do to take it across the finish line. That's a big part of what we do. And on mass torts, for example, J&J, the talc litigation, the 3M earplug litigation, even the Juul vaping litigation, these cases, they are in the spotlight for a while, but then I don't know that the general public knows what happens with those cases. And what happens is years and years and years of fighting to get a result for each and every one of those thousands of plaintiffs who've been harmed.
And deposition after deposition after deposition.
And hearing after hearing after hearing. And now in a lot of the mass torts is the bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is a new commonly used defense strategy. And that's another thing. So now here we are, civil attorneys who now have to understand, okay, this is part of the tools that are used by the defendants, and you now have to be able to advise your clients on, okay, if this happens in bankruptcy, what happens next? So
you're now versing yourself in the bankruptcy code and all the different routes that it can take. I know J&J has done that with the talc stuff, and also the Boy Scouts of America tried to do the bankruptcy mechanism in their case as well. So that's an interesting point, that as new trends emerge, some of them are even designed and created by the insurance industries or the corporate America side of these cases. It's up to the consumer side to adjust and pivot and understand what that new strategy is and evolve and continue to represent the clients to the best interest of everybody that they are pushing for.
Exactly. And the time, we always have to be mindful as plaintiffs' attorneys. We want, justice delayed is justice denied. We've all heard it. And that is what we try to avoid. So we always have to be continuing on the path to try to get that recovery for the clients. And all of these new tactics and bankruptcy, it delays the justice to the client. So we have to stay on top of all of that.
Additional roadblocks all along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah, I often tell clients that get frustrated at different points in the process. A judge makes a ruling on a discovery issue and requires them to sit for a second deposition or go to an additional medical exam or whatever. This is just the battle. We're trying to win the war. We got to keep our eye on the prize. It's a long-term game. It's a long fight. And it's what happens now isn't going to always determine who wins in the end. And we got to, because you really have to help the client understand that not only are they in it for the long haul, they got to be patient, but we're in it with them for the long haul. And it's a partnership together with us and them to really see it to the end, to your point, no matter whether it settles at the courthouse steps or it goes to trial or post-trial is up on appeal, or, these cases can be an odyssey.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's exactly right. It is the ultimate endurance event, honestly. It really is. It is the ultimate, and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And
that is the perfect segue, as Michelle just so poignantly described some of these cases as being the ultimate endurance test, to talking about a very interesting aspect of your life that I know a lot of our viewers are going to be just as interested in me to learn more about. Michelle is an avid runner and has completed over 100 marathons, over 35 double century bike rides, which is 200 miles or more, multiple century rides, over 10 full Ironman triathlons, often attempts and completes 100-mile races, including the Badwater 135 race, which goes from Badwater Basin in Death Valley up to the highest location in the contiguous United States, Mount Whitney. And Michelle has completed Badwater 4 times. 5 times.
5. As of last year, 5. That was my goal, going for 5.
And so as somebody who every time he gets off the couch to go to the refrigerator to get a drink is susceptible to pulling a hamstring, please tell us how this all came to be.
So honest, the way it started is I used to wear a back brace. So I love sports, grew up a Laker fan. My family, there was 9 kids, loved playing basketball. We always were out in the street playing sports and stuff. But then I had to wear a back brace for 5 years, from the ages of 13 to 18. And I was not able to do anything. Like I couldn't play any sports. I couldn't run, couldn't do anything. And I think honestly, not being able to do it made me obviously want to do it even more when I was able. And so
I'm picturing like the scene in Forrest Gump when the braces break off his legs and then he just keeps running.
Yeah. You know what? It's the back brace you saw in 16 Candles, if you ever saw that old movie, or Michelle and Romy's high school reunion. It's that brace. I don't even know if they use that technology anymore. It's called a Milwaukee brace, but it was from neck all the way to it was a full like torso brace.
Wow.
So I think that was it. And then I always loved running. I thought it was just amazing. I loved watching marathons. You know, when you're a kid, sometimes you hear about the Boston Marathon.
Right.
I just thought, wow, that sounds so cool. Somebody run that far. And then, you know, I started running and loved it, and then ran my first LA marathon. And my favorite marathon, if you're going to do one, LA Marathon is the way to go.
Wow.
I did my first LA Marathon when I was, I think, 24. So a couple years out of, I think I was still in college at the time. Absolutely thought it was the hardest thing ever. I couldn't believe I would never do one again. I'm never going to do one again. But then, you know, it's funny how the pain fades and you only have all the good feels from it. Mm-hmm. And the runner's high is real and all the endorphins are real. And there's nothing like, back then, when we would do the LA Marathon, you would be starting in downtown LA, and Muhammad Ali was the person who would send off the runners. So you had like 20-some thousand runners in the streets of downtown LA, and 20,000 people would be shouting as they crossed the finish line, Ali, Ali, and it still gives me like goosebumps. That's amazing. Such an amazing event. So amazing. And if you participate in one of those events, I swear you just want to keep doing it.
It lights the fire.
It totally does. And then it makes you want to keep doing it over and over. And then honestly, the reason I kept doing it is, as an attorney, your first few years, I mean, how many nights did you pull all-nighters, or you're working till midnight for years? And so what I would do is I would be working till midnight on a motion or preparing something for trial, and I would allow myself to sign up for a marathon. So I had something to look forward to. Mm-hmm. So I would just sign up for, okay, I'm going to sign up for Chicago Marathon. I'll sign up for New York Marathon. And I just started signing up for marathons while I was working constantly. Yeah. And that's what I would do.
You know, I'm like a very detail, goal-oriented kind of person myself. Obviously, I have never done any kind of endurance running like you've done, but even in the office with my staff, a lot of times I'll say to folks like, you know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's, you know, you got to take the action, you got to take that small step, and then little steps add up to. But I want to really ask you, like, when I look at some of these accomplishments you've had, you know, we'll get to Badwater in a second, but let's just first start with a full Ironman triathlon. You're talking about a 26.2 mile run. How long of a bike ride?
It's 114 miles.
114 mile bike ride. And then
it's a 2.4 mile swim.
2.4 mile swim, all contiguous together in one race. So, and that's just insanely amazing to accomplish that feat of an Ironman triathlon. So, like, for my own personal, you know, curiosity, when you go back and look at like the first time you ever did an Ironman and you signed up for it, you're late night working on a case and you're like, you know what, I'm going to do an Ironman finally. How do you even go about like sort of planning out that training schedule? Where do you start? How do you organize all that? How long of a time do you need to prepare to get yourself ready to do it? Can you just walk us through it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So first is like really making the decision, because it's such a terrifying thing to think, I'm going to jump in that water and swim 2.4 miles. I'm going to ride my bike 114 miles, and I'm going to run a marathon. So making the decision is that the order it goes? I think, yes, it goes swim, bike, run.
Wow.
Yeah, so you got to jump in the water early in the morning. Typically it's cold. But I think making the decision is the first part. That's terrifying. Right. And then once you make that decision, you know, then you're like, okay, now I got to work back. It has to be far enough in advance. You're like, okay, what am I going to do? Most people are afraid of the swim, unless you're like some college swimmer or high school swimmer. And then you just start, you know, reading about it, learning about it. How much time do I need in the water? How fast do I need to swim so that I don't get cut off? How do you?
Because there's certain points in time where if you're not in, to the next thing by a certain time, you can't continue with the race, right?
That is exactly right. And so you want to make sure that you're efficient enough that you get through, and you have to know yourself too. Are you a good swimmer, medium, mediocre swimmer? I'm a poor swimmer. So I know I will make it through. I'll probably be very close to the cutoff, but I'm going to make it through. And then you have to know all the gear. You've got to have the gear. You got to have the right equipment. You got to have the right mindset, and you can't panic. So you have to formulate your plan, put in the work every day around your job as a lawyer, and then consistently do the work every day and trust the process so that when you show up on race day,
right,
you relax and say, I've put in the work. I can do this no matter what happens. So the first one I did was St. George, Utah. And that was the first time they had done it. It was a very hard course, and a huge a percentage of the people who signed up did not make it through even the swim. It was 50 degrees. It was so cold. And I think people were not expecting the temperature. It was very challenging. But, luckily I made it through the swim and then jumped on the bike. And St. George is known to be pretty hilly. It was pretty tough. It wasn't a flat, fast course. Each Ironman has different levels of difficulty. I think our good buddy Min Win also does these Ironmans. And so when you select them, you kind of know, okay, this is a hard one. This is an easier one. The easier ones sell out real quick. The hard ones, people are like, I don't really want to do that one. So you can get into a difficult one with difficult weather, difficult climbing. And then if it's a hilly course, people really don't want to do it. So St. George was one of those. But, you really have to start with the decision to do it.
Yeah, so let's talk about your first one. So how much time did you give yourself to train for that?
I don't think I gave myself that much time. I think because I had a base of running, I was always running and cycling, I probably gave myself about 6 months.
Okay. And that's a shorter time frame than what people usually put together to train for an Ironman.
Probably.
So you're talking about a 6 to 12 month commitment to train and get ready.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
And then in that 6 to 12 months, are you training every day? Are you training, 5 out of the 7 days, 4 out of you got to give your body a chance to recover and rest. So what's the typical regimen when you're training?
So I think probably 5 to 6 days of training with 1 day off is what I would do. I'm sure there's people who take no days off, but for me, I think a rest day is imperative. You got to let your body recover.
Right.
So then you just fit in, are you going to do a run session and a bike session today, maybe spend 2 hours doing that, and then sprinkle in the swimming a few days a week. So, get up early in the morning, hit the pool, go to work, do your day, and then do a run at night. And maybe, the weekends are always good for cycling because cycling takes a lot more time.
Right. You got to be out there.
Yeah. And then to be out there on the bike, and then there's all the equipment that goes along with being on the bike.
So if you're making all your cutoffs, let's say the St. George Ironman that you did for the first time, what's kind of average time for the whole thing?
So, there's all different levels. I was never that fast, but 13 hours is I think you have 18 hours. So the lights shut. So Ironman is known to be tough. When you cross the line, it says, you are an Ironman. So if you cross the line, it'd be like, congratulations, Brad Wallace, you are an Ironman. And as long as you make it through the finisher line by 17:59, I think, then you'll hear that. But at 18, they shut the lights off. And then there might still be people finishing.
The poor people at 18:01.
Yes,
it's
you're not official.
Are almost an Ironman.
You're not official.
Really.
But it's definitely doable. Yeah. I will say this. I mean, honestly, I think it's a lot of fun. And I would recommend to anybody to do it because it's just a real adventure. And as an adult who, we can work hard and we can do fun things like go to NFL games and NBA games. But if you want a real adventure of your body and mind, and a lot of it is a mental adventure, it is just ups and downs. And you experience these crazy emotions in 12 or 13 hours. Yeah. And you experience everything: fear, exhilaration, fun, exhaustion, absolutely. And
mental battles.
100%. And so I love the adventure within the sport.
Yeah.
Just all of that adventure that happens physically, mentally,
Right.
and then it's over.
Yeah.
But like you never forget all the experiences.
Well, and I was just going to say, I imagine, you didn't speak to it yet. I want you to talk about it, but I imagine because it's such a time-consuming thing and it's such a unique experience, I imagine there's communities of people that train together, and then there becomes communities where you meet fellow Ironmen and women who, once you accomplish that yourself, and then you meet other people who have that shared experience, there's that kind of unspoken bond and camaraderie where you've put yourself through the ultimate test and come through on the other end, and all these other people have done the same, and there's that certain unspoken like respect that everybody has for one another. So can you talk to that, to speak to that about the community of being an Ironman or an Ironwoman?
It's definitely a community. It's so true. And it comes with the running events or the cycling events, and then especially with Ironman because it's a smaller group of people. But if I guess it's a certain mindset. So once you get that mindset and you start loving it, I remember showing up in Brazil. I did the Brazil Ironman.
Wow.
And it's so funny. So you're in this, you're in South America. It's my first time there. And you look around and it's like, oh, I remember you from the Wisconsin Ironman, and it's my neighbor from LA. Or
wow.
I remember you from, and it's so funny.
Familiar faces.
Yeah, it really is a community. And you build this like camaraderie and this fun experience. And then you find out that you've signed up for Wisconsin. But there is nothing like traveling and seeing the world and then being able to do the running and the biking and the swimming with all these like-minded people. And, there are times where maybe you're having a hard time on the run. It's the last part of the Ironman event. And you get to talk to people from all over the world and share great stories.
People pick up your spirit and
it's amazing.
Encourage you. Keep going, keep going.
100%. I mean, it's a great way to meet people. It's very like-minded people. They want to push themselves. They want to see what they can do. Often they're very charitable. You can raise money doing these events, and
right.
a lot of the people do. So it's very like-minded people who love to travel, love to push themselves, and they are very supportive.
Yeah, very cool.
It's a great sport.
Now, we talked about Ironman, but now this Badwater thing is like a whole nother level, right? Like it's like, once you've done the Ironman thing a few times, it's like, okay, what else? You're looking around and there's this Badwater thing sitting out there. So talk about just the reputation and the kind of vibe of what Badwater is in the endurance community.
So to me, Badwater is the ultimate, because I just remember when I first learned about it, I thought, that's not possible. That's crazy. I mean, you're talking about 125 degrees, 100 up to 130. It's the hottest place in the world. It's like the hottest recorded temperature, which is in Death Valley, right in California. It's a national park. The fact that these people will go to Badwater Basin, which is the lowest point in the United States, and will run across this desert in the heat, it is unbelievable to me. And it's 135 miles. It's not all flat. There are passes that you have to go over. So you're climbing and descending. And then to end at Mount Whitney, which is the highest mountain in the contiguous United States. And it's like, that's a badge of honor just to climb to the top of Mount Whitney. But the fact that people would even attempt it to me is crazy.
It's like 5 marathons in a row, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Just like extreme conditions.
That's exactly right. And it's so hot. And if you haven't run in the heat, I cannot explain how dangerous and difficult it is, because you don't realize how hard it is until you start training for it and you go run in the heat. So for me, a lot of the preparation always involves, where can I find 110 plus degrees and go and run in it on purpose? So I'll go to Palm Springs, and I like to do It's Tramway Road. So if you've ever gone to the Palm Springs tram, there's Tramway Road, and it is steep and it is hot and it is brutal. And you go in the summer months, people will often stop their car and say, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" I'm like, "No, thank you for asking, but I'm okay.
I'm training.
Doing this on purpose because it seems like what are you doing? This is stupid." But it's just a wild event. And Badwater is so epic. It requires a team, which I love about that part of the sport, because a lot of the events are solo. A lot of ultra running is solo. You're in the mountains by yourself. You don't necessarily have a crew with you all the time. But with Badwater, the only way you can survive is you have to have water at least every couple miles because of the heat. And you have a rolling crew with you. So you have 3 or 4 of your good friends and teammates who are there with you. And they are always nearby, even though it's a race you have to run and finish on your own. But the only way you can survive it is to have this team that is there with you. So it's a real team sport.
Right.
But it is so brutal and terrifying. And I finished it for the 5th time last year. And I can tell you, every time you start and you're at mile 1, there is a moment where you start to panic, like, can I really do this? What have I done?
How
what
long,
am I doing?
on average, has it taken you to complete these Badwaters?
So I would say I'm mid-pack or like a little bit above mid-pack. So for me, it's 36 hours, that's respectable. But the winner this year, Ashley Paulson, and the winner last year, she's just phenomenal. I mean, she's just blowing away. She does it so quickly. Her time is faster than like even I think my best 100-mile time, like my PR for the 100-mile course of a 100-mile race. But so it's respectable. It is such a crazy journey.
And you're not sleeping for a day and a half. It's all running.
It's all running. There are some times where you're walking, for sure. I mean, there are times where you're going up a hill, and it makes more sense to save your energy. You're going to walk it as fast as you're going to run it for most of us. And so you'll save your energy and walk the hills. But there are times where you sleep. I'll only sleep maybe 20 minutes at the halfway point because the crew has to get more ice, and they need time to get things that they need for the rest of the race. Supplies, exactly. So then maybe I'll lay down for 20 minutes. And then if you get delirious, because I don't know if you've heard, sometimes ultra runners, they'll get like delirious and they'll start seeing visions and hallucinating. And it's real. It actually does happen.
Sure.
And it does. And so at some point, if you're having really hardcore hallucinations, I'll take a nap for 5 minutes.
Oh.
Just to take a quick break.
Just a quick 5-er.
Quick 5. And I'll tell the team, okay, I'm taking 5 minutes. Usually I'll wake up at like 4 minutes and then I'll just keep going.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I usually do, because you don't want to let yourself sleep too much. You just need a little refresher. But the great thing about Badwater is that Death Valley is a beautiful national park, and we run it with a permit from the U.S. Park Service. They have us do it on a permit, and we can only get the permit when there's a full moon. So it's beautiful.
Wow.
It is gorgeous running. It's like you're running on the bottom of the ocean, you know? I mean, because it's flat for a lot of it, but there's these spectacular mountain ranges.
I'm just surprised that you have the wherewithal to kind of take a step back and enjoy the beauty of it when the circumstances of why you're there are so intense and kind of, goal driven in terms of trying to complete this race. To, you kind of forget like the spoils of the work that you've done is to get to be in such a magical place and such a unique position that a lot of people never even get to experience something like that.
That's how I view it, because I think there are people that we represent who can't do it because of physical limitations.
Right.
So how lucky are we that we can go out and use our body to do this crazy event? I think it's unbelievable. So there's like the Goggins mindset, which you need sometimes, like toughen up, get through this, and
it's all mind over matter.
Exactly. And then there's times where you can be joyful, so you can have both. So there's definitely, I have to adopt the Goggins mindset sometimes, and just like power through, don't give up. And then there's times where you can look up and just enjoy and say, wow, this is the most spectacular thing. I'm the luckiest person in the world.
Yeah.
And it's definitely doing an event like a 100-mile race or Badwater. you have both feelings and they go back and forth.
Well, and to your point earlier, I imagine you probably go back and forth a little bit on the aspect of you have this supportive team with you, and maybe some of the people are even running with you in rotation, so that you have a partner and this and that. But at the same time, on the flip side, it's a totally solo thing that you have to accomplish. You could have 1,000 people in support of you, but if you're not executing and finishing, then you're not going to achieve your goal. So you have this team mindset, but then you have this individual accomplishment mindset that's going on at the same time, which I imagine is pretty interesting in terms of the dynamic that you're dealing with in the environment you're in.
That's exactly right. And there's probably 50 or 60 miles where you're not even communicating with your team because you're so tired and you're so down that I won't even say words to my team. They'll try to give me something to eat or drink, and I just can't do it. All I can do is put one foot in front of the other. There's no extra energy that you can spend communicating with your teammate. It's just one foot in front of the other. So it really is a solo. It really is a solo
And
event.
I'm just trying to extract as much information from you as possible, because it's probably likely that today is the closest I'll ever get to a Badwater race. So I'm just trying to find out. So now walk me through, let's go back to, let's say, your first Badwater, 135 miles through all the circumstances and terrain and weather and all the difficulty you've explained. You cross the finish line. Tell us what that feeling is like, number one. And number two, what do you do right after you're done with a race like that? Other than just lay down and, don't wake me for 2 days. Walk us through what that's like at the end.
So at the end, you're approaching the Whitney portal, and then the last, I don't know if it's half mile or a quarter mile, your team comes together and you all cross the finish line together.
Wow.
And it was the first one I did. I actually was married at the time, and I actually did it with my spouse. We both ran every bit of it together. So we had a large team, and it was both of us.
And then right at the end, you put your head just a head forward to finish right before.
Yes, that's right. I always want to win.
That's my move.
That's what it is. You have to. It's competitive. Come on. But I hated it that it was over. I loved the experience so much. I hated that it was over.
Wow, interesting.
That was the first time. Now, the other times I've been relieved and thrilled that I had finished. But that first one, I actually was. It took so much preparation. I didn't know if I could do it because I had never done it before.
How long did you train for the first one?
Oh gosh, probably 6 months.
Wow.
And it was just a lot of running.
And that was after having already done marathons and Ironmans.
Yes. And a big part of the training is just signing up for a 100-mile race, and then signing up for a 50-mile race, and signing up for another 100-mile race. And you have to do several 100-mile races just to even
qualify,
throw in your application.
So they won't even consider you unless you've proven that you've been able to do other endurance type events successfully, because they don't want to take on the liability of having just some random amateur show up
100%
and fall off at mile 6 or something.
Exactly. And even amazing athletes have thrown in their application and not gotten in because they're looking for a certain type of endurance athlete.
How many runners are there every year about?
They only allow 100.
Wow.
So they cut it off at 100, and you have to have completed at least 300-mile races. And they may have even made the application standards harder this year. Typically, it's 300-mile races, and you have to have completed your last 100 within the last year.
Wow.
And it has to be a certain type of 100-mile race.
And once you've completed a Badwater, are you eligible to come back?
That can count for your application for next year. Yes, it has to be the year before.
Oh, so you can't take a year off and then just
That's right.
get in automatically. You got to
Exactly.
reprove yourself. Wow.
So I broke my arm one year doing a running event. I was running a 100K in Arizona, and I had already signed up for Badwater, and I fell and hurt my arm. And the doctor said, "You can't run this race." I said, I'm not sure I'm going to listen to you. But I did take his advice. And then I knew, well, now I have to go run more hundreds to qualify for the next
Wow.
Badwater. Yeah. So
it's intense.
It's intense. And the training for it is intense because you've got to find the heat and you've got to run in the heat. And if you can't find the heat, then you have to be spending, 3 hours at least in a sauna a week just to get that heat training. So a lot of my training this year or last year was just sitting in a sauna.
Wow.
Yeah. Just like getting accustomed to the heat, which is really tough.
And currently, are you training for any upcoming events? What's on the calendar?
It's so funny. This is the first time in my life I have actually nothing on calendar.
Wow.
Yes. I have about 6 trials set up back to back to back. And I have made a decision to not have, which is weird for me. I've never not had like an event on calendar, something to look forward to. I just finished a 50-mile race called Across the Years. It's kind of a weird thing, but there's this running festival that they do at the end of the year and into the new year. So I always wanted to spend a new year running from so I ran from 2023 into 2024.
Cool.
And
where was that?
That was in Arizona.
Cool.
It was actually at the Camelback Ranch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at the
where the Dodgers play spring training baseball.
Exactly. And then I had just done one in Arches National Park, which is like 50-mile run. That was brutal. And so I don't have anything. I'm not signed up for anything right now, so it's kind of wide open.
Wow.
Not sure what I'm going to do next.
All right. Well, you got a lot of other stuff going on, and we're going to talk about it, but really appreciate you kind of opening up and sharing with us your experience about the endurance running and endurance competition world, because it's certainly something that a lot of people know you for, and respect the hell out of you for all the things that you've done in that area. And it's just so interesting to learn more about it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. And fun fact, Dave Reinard was actually on my crew one year. So many people love Dave. He was a great crewmate, actually.
Cool. And
he,
fun fact, shout out to Dave. He was also sitting with me at the Super Bowl 2 years ago when the Rams won the Super Bowl.
Woo! Go Rams.
He and Christine won the LATLC raffle and sat with Natalie and I, and we had one of the most amazing sports experiences. I just saw Christine recently at a board meeting, and we were reminiscing about the Super Bowl that the Rams beat the Bengals, and very cool.
So cool.
Good
Love
people.
It. Oh, yeah.
All right, cool. So now we are going to segue into our next section of the podcast called Underrated, Overrated. And
this one I've seen. I'm like, oh man, I hope I do good on underrated,
and this
overrated.
is where I throw out a list of topics and you tell me whether they're overrated or underrated and a brief explanation.
Okay.
Why. You ready?
Yes.
SoCal weather.
Underrated. It's the best. I mean, come on. Although we just, sometimes we get some brain, but let's face it, it's paradise. Paradise.
FaceTime calls.
Overrated. Oh, because, do you really always want to be on screen? No.
Ranch dressing.
Ooh, underrated. It's the world's best condiment. Let's face it. Come on. Ranch on basically everything at all times.
Shopping in person at the store.
I rarely do it unless I'm on vacation, so I'd say it's overrated.
Taylor Swift.
Underrated because obviously everybody loves her. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, but her music is great and she's a powerhouse. Look at her. She can
amazing.
She's an economy mover. She's amazing. And I don't know, she's probably, people don't give her enough credit.
Chat GPT.
Ooh, underrated. I mean, it's pretty fantastic. And the more you play around with it, the more fantastic it is. And I just can't wait to see how AI develops, and Chat GPT is great.
The snooze button.
Underrated. I use it all the time. I wish I could say I was one of the 5 a.m. club people and never hit snooze, but I do it and I love it and I'd never regret it. I'm like, oh, I needed that extra 5 minutes.
Hashtag no regrets.
0.
Side hustles.
Underrated. Everybody should have one. I think it just keeps you fresh, moving, constantly learning different things and getting yourself out there, engaging in different activities. That's a great idea.
Postmates.
Underrated. I mean, I think everybody loves Postmates, right? I mean, it's the best thing in the world. Anybody would. Come on, it's been a game changer. We don't have to get out and schlep out to a store and get things. They can just deliver it right to your door. It's like
convenience.
Magic. I love it.
Starbucks.
Underrated. I know people sometimes hate Starbucks. I have many friends who say they won't drink the coffee, but I will tell you, I had one on the way up here. I absolutely love Starbucks. I still think it delivers 100% of the time. I've never had a bad Starbucks experience. You know exactly what you're getting. It's always good. And I mean, all around the world, it's just consistently great product quality.
Shout out to Starbucks. If you need a new spokesperson, I can get you the contact info for Michelle West. You cannot go wrong. That was a ringing endorsement.
And during law school, I called it my favorite sleep substitute.
Inflation.
I don't know. I'm torn on this one. I'll say overrated. I think everybody's obviously been affected by inflation in the past couple of years. We've all seen it. It's affected all of us. I am optimistic that it's all going to be working its way back, and we're all going to be, doing well. I have an optimistic viewpoint, even though we've been dealing with some bad inflation.
Sleeping more than 7 hours.
Underrated. I mean, all the studies show, especially talking about sports, there was a study years ago that showed that sleeping 10 hours instead of working out 1 or 2 extra days a week actually improved performance.
Wow.
Sleep is amazing.
Until you go to Badwater and then you're sleeping for 5 minutes and running another 100 miles.
Exactly.
All right. That has been Underrated, Overrated.
Woo!
We are on fire today, Michelle. This is honestly going way better than any podcast I can remember today.
I just want to do an Ironman with you now. I'm all, when can we get out there and run? You're making me want to, I got to sign up for something.
Yeah. We'll have to talk offline about that. Let's put a pin in that for now. And let's move on. I want to talk to you about a couple other things that you're involved in. You are currently the 2024 president of the Western Trial Lawyers Association, which is an outstanding and amazing legal organization that I'm also involved in and a member of, which is, you can tell us more, but mainly comprised of West Coast-based plaintiff consumer attorneys who represent individuals against insurance companies and government entities, both in individual and mass tort class action type cases. But tell us about your involvement in WTLA, your tenure as president this year, and what WTLA has coming up this year in terms of events for folks that might be interested.
Sure. So Western Trial Lawyers, as you know, it's just a great group of some of the best lawyers. And the reason it's so fantastic is I think it's very intimate. We don't have thousands of people at our seminars. We have 2 seminars a year. We do a ski seminar, and we have a seminar that we do in Hawaii every year. And that's this year going to be June 1st through 6th in Maui. And we do at the Fairmont Kealani.
Yeah, I'll be there. I can't wait.
It's a great venue. It's lovely. And the organization is so friendly. And again, the camaraderie is great. And the reason that's important is in that very casual atmosphere, the ego is really not front and center like it is at other events that you sometimes attend. Everybody is so welcoming, sharing, and just gracious with their time and their experience. And it's one of the best ways to interact, not only with lawyers, like great lawyers. I know we've had some great times at Western Trial Lawyers, but also there's great vendors out there who have amazing, intelligent products that can help us serve our clients. Yeah. And even at Western Trial Lawyers, we even allow the I'll call them vendors, but our partners in our legal world, people who do our accident reconstruction, people who do structures for our clients, they're able to spend some time talking to the group about new and useful products. And honestly, that's always helpful. It's different than just sitting at a booth and
having them
there.
set up in the vendor exhibitor area or whatever, and kind of walking through the cattle call of the booths and all the sales pitches. They actually get to stand up and kind of do presentations on, what's the latest and greatest and how their product can benefit your client and your practice. I've also found that to be really valuable.
It really is. And it's just a great group of lawyers. And I love our quick hit format. So we do about 15, anywhere from 12 to 20 minutes, usually about 15-minute sessions. So in 15 minutes, what we've found is you can learn just as much as you could in 30 minutes. You keep your audience, the audience is captive, they're interested, and the presentations, you learn so much more.
Right.
So in a
like
shorter period of time.
Over a couple of hour period of the seminar, you might have 6, 7, 8 attorneys presenting, and then there's a break and there's activities or whatever, but you really can pack a lot of information and presentations into a smaller time frame and get a wide variety of, legal knowledge and tips and practice tips and things like that.
Exactly. And it's very welcoming for families because, as you know, I mean, something that we always struggle with is, you want to go out to these events, and it can mean weekends away from your family because you're in sessions all day long. But the way that we format the Western trial lawyers, whether it's the ski seminar or Hawaii, is we do a brief morning session and then a brief afternoon session. That allows families to, the lawyer can bring the family with them, and then you can see your family throughout the day.
Yeah.
And you can still participate in hours of education and networking.
Yeah. Or even do a morning session and plan a little day trip with the family and maybe skip the afternoon session that day or whatever. But you have time built out in the schedule to be able to enjoy the local area where you're going and visiting. I remember a few years back, the ski seminar was in Alaska, and I all of a sudden at one point was scratching my head and going, how did I end up on a snowmobile with 3 trial lawyers from, the West Coast that I'm friends with on a Alaskan glacier? Like, is this real life? Like, so you just find yourself in these amazing situations because of all the destinations that the WTLA has their events at. And it really is a memorable thing.
I love that one. I thought Alaska was great. And
me too. I loved it.
All the people there were amazing.
Yeah.
That was one of the highlights. I love that trip so much. And just getting out of your normal routine. Like, we usually will pick a different location for the ski seminars.
Right.
It's amazing. Hawaii is a little bit different because, the Fairmont is so fantastic.
And I was going to say, the past couple of years we had one, there was one on the Big Island, but traditionally, at least since I've been involved in the last maybe 5 to 7 years, year in and year out, it typically is in Maui. And it's in Maui again this year, June 2nd through 6th. If anyone's interested, go to WTLA.com. I think that's the website. We'll have it in the bio. But
it's actually westerntrialers.com, and we just like sort of revamped the website, so that's why I know.
Cool. So, but we're going back to Maui this year, and there is a connection with WTLA and Maui because of all the Hawaii seminars that have been hosted by WTLA over the years, and many of which are in Maui. And so as president of WTLA this year, talk about the decision to go back to Maui this year in light of obviously the tragic and horrific fire that the Maui community experienced over the last year. What went into the decision to go back to Maui, and how that was taken into account when you made the decision?
That was a big part of the decision because, quite frankly, the people of the island, they need and look forward to the visitors. I mean, that is a huge part of the revenue, and we wanted to be there to support.
Sure.
And we don't want to. We didn't want to go somewhere else because it may have been difficult or anything like that. We actually have a link on our website, westerntrialers.com, to donate to the Maui Food Bank. We did research to find out what would be the best use of donations. There were personal donations made, and then there's a link on the website because we definitely wanted to make sure this partnership with the island of Maui, it's a very special place.
It is. With
our members, very special place. We always want to be there to support. We always want to be there to help. And we definitely made sure that we went back this year, and actually we're planning to be there for the next few years as a result of wanting to support the island, wanting to support the community and to show up. So we used to go to the Big Island every third year, and I think we're going to be in Maui for the next until at least 2026. So we want to be there. Awesome. We want to support and show up and just celebrate the island of Maui and its people, and just keep that close relationship and camaraderie.
Yeah, agreed. And it is such an amazing place. And all the times that I've been to Maui through the Western Trial Lawyers, it's just been a hugely memorable experience. So I strongly recommend anyone out there who's thinking about getting involved in Western Trial Lawyers to make this year the year, not only because the Hawaii seminar is in Maui, which is going to be a very, very special event in and of itself, but also you have the amazing Michelle West as your president this year. No better year than to get involved. So check them out, Western Trial Lawyers Association. All right. Now I want to segue and talk to you about your involvement as the 2024 president of the Orange County Trial Lawyers Charities. Now, Orange County Trial Lawyers Charities is a relatively recent organization that was grown out of the Los Angeles Trial Lawyers Charities, which has been doing its thing in the Los Angeles community for more than 10 years. And I am the 2024 LATLC president. And so, number one, for me, it was as, exciting as it is to become the president of a charitable organization like that. It was especially exciting to become president in the year that you were president of OCTLC. For anyone that gets the Consumer Attorneys of California, for anyone that gets the Consumer Attorneys of Los Angeles magazine every month, the Advocate, you'll see every month for this year, Michelle West and I will share a page about all of the good work that LATLC and OCTLC do. So talk to us about your journey with not only LATLC, but then expanding and become president of OCTLC.
Sure. And congratulations, because it is a big deal to be the president of Los Angeles Trial Lawyers Charities. It's a huge organization. The best lawyers are involved in it. And, I got involved in Los Angeles Trial Lawyers Charities years ago, and I was a board member. And I think that's where probably we first met and have done a lot of great work together.
Yeah.
And I always have to give a shout out to Lisa Zanville, because without her, Los Angeles Trial Lawyers Charities and all the millions of dollars of work that has been given, millions of dollars of charity that has been given to the Los Angeles community just would not happen.
Yeah, Lisa is the heartbeat of the organization.
100%. And under your leadership and Karina before you, just wonderful lawyers doing wonderful work. But seeing the work that was done in Los Angeles, and I lived in Los Angeles for years, born in Los Angeles. I'm a Dodger fan, Laker fan, Clipper fan. I've been working at a firm in Orange County, which is Robinson Calcagnie, and someone I think maybe Dan Kramer and Lisa and others mentioned, maybe we should, start in Orange County. And I thought, that's a great idea. Who's going to do it? And they're like, you can do it. I said, okay, sure. And I thought, well, what does that mean? And I didn't realize, you're actually starting a business. You're starting a charitable organization. And so I have been on this journey of starting basically an Orange County version of the Trial Lawyers Charities. And it has been amazing, because first thing you have to do is find out, is there a need? There's definitely a need in Orange County. There's lots of people that you can help. Are there lawyers who are committed to helping and committed to serving? Yes, there's a fantastic group of lawyers in Orange County, and most of them are now on our board.
That's great.
And then working, Lisa was helpful in giving us pointers and figuring out what to do. And then from there, it really was, okay, now you really have to, do the work.
Raise money and put on events and help the community.
And even before that, it's like, you got to get your lawyer, your accountant, your bookkeeper, you got to open the bank account, the bylaws. Yeah. And you have to make sure that you comply with all the rules, because we're a charity and we have to make sure that we comply with all the rules. Even when we put on a raffle, you have to register for the raffle. There's all these rules that you have to follow. Then once you do that, then you get your great group of lawyers who are on the board. And then you have to have a vision. What's your vision? What's your goal? What's your plan?
Right.
And my vision was, let's do a volunteer event once a month. Let's try to do a volunteer event once a month. And the goal is to, raise money. Our first year, we were able to raise money from what we called founders. We gave an opportunity to really some of the heavy hitters in the legal industry in Orange County and said, hey, do you want to be a founder of our organization? For $10,000, you can be a founder of this organization. And we had, Eric Trout, we had Greg Bentley, Keith Moore. I chipped in 10,000, Brett Sachs, Chelsea Sachs. We have a whole list of founders, Sam Nordine. There's just wonderful people who said, yes, I believe in your vision.
Excellent.
And I want to help the people of Orange County.
Reza Torque-Zadeh.
Reza was one of the first.
Shout out to Reza Torque Law.
Thank you. Because I was sitting
He's
here
so charitable. He's such a mensch.
100%. And I'm so glad you said that because Reza was one of the first people, and Reza has shown up every time to support. When we do events, he's always there to support.
Yeah.
And what that means is when you get support of the lawyer, we are a 100% volunteer organization. We actually don't have any employees. We don't have staff. We don't have an executive director. We're volunteer attorneys who happen to have law firms and full-time jobs.
Wow.
Who then put together volunteer events. So, for example, we have been doing Habitat for Humanity builds for the past couple of years.
Cool.
We're planning our next one this year. So that means that we are donating $5,000 to Habitat for Humanity. We pick a day where a team gets together and then we go do a build project.
Awesome.
And let me tell you, when you do a build project and you're climbing scaffolding and you're in 80-degree weather and you have hard hat on and you have to remember 3 points of contact, it also helps you understand, like, wow, you know what? People who do construction work have a hard job. So there's all these benefits to being in the community, helping. Not only are you donating, but when you have boots on the ground, volunteer events with lawyers in the community.
It's financial investment and physical and emotional investment.
100%.
And you need both.
Personal growth. There's nothing like it. I mean, other than running Badwater, there's nothing that makes you feel better than, I have put my hard work. Not only did I donate money, I donate my time, but I'm out here doing the work with my friends, with my fellow trial attorneys, and anybody who wants to volunteer. It doesn't have to just be a trial lawyer. You can show up to the volunteer events, but you're working 8 hours a full construction day to build this house.
Yeah. And I found with LATLC, obviously, there's the money donation component, which is really important. You got to raise money. There's the fundraising, which is, I have a lot of fun with to put on the different events, golf tournaments and casino nights and all that stuff, which is important. But then there's the third part of the charity, which is all the community events, where you actually get to go and see the organizations that receive our grant money, see the work that they do in the community, work and help them with one of their local events. And then you really, really see the real impact that those organizations are having on real people. I remember recently, just last year, I went to a Mother's Day breakfast at a LA charity event, and the moms of these at-risk high school kids that this organization was helping were honored for a breakfast, and just seeing their faces and the gratitude and how proud they were of their families and proud to be honored. It was so moving and so touching that it really energizes you. And I always say with LATLC, and I'm sure you feel the same with OCTLC, when we do events like that in the community and people that are in the LA or OC community, may come up to us and say, thank you for everything you do for us. My immediate reaction is thank you. You don't know how much you've done for me to, change my perspective or give me the right perspective on life or have the right amount of gratitude in my life and not take things for granted. And so you really do get as much as, the more you give, the more you get out of it. And it really is a very holistic kind of organic experience.
It's so true. It really does fill your tank to keep going, every time, because it's a lot of work. And unless you do the boots on the ground activities, I have found you don't get that. I mean, it's great to give, and
it's easy to write a check.
Yes.
Obviously the amounts vary, and sometimes you're giving more than you're comfortable giving and all that. But that's only one aspect of it. And if you're not kind of boots on the ground, like you said, you're not getting the full experience to really understand like the impact.
Exactly. And a great way to experience that LATLC and OCTLC does together is the Great Trike Giveaway.
Amazing event.
And that one is a real tearjerker because all throughout the year, and this is the event where we donate money to SoCal Trikers, and they specifically work with children and their doctors and therapists to put together adaptive trikes so that these kids who typically can't ride a bike that maybe their brother and sister rides, they can now, with the help of their doctor and therapist, ride a bike that's created for their needs.
It's specifically created for their situation.
Exactly.
And allows them to have that independence. And, there's been years in the past where we've gotten emails or phone calls from families of kids that received the adaptive trikes through the Great Trike Giveaway, telling us not only for the child's self-esteem and confidence to have that experience to be able to independently ride around, that most of the day people are caring for them or they're dependent on someone else. This is a situation where they finally have a little independence to do their own thing and operate it on their own. That's one component, but also parents thanking us that then as a family they can enjoy together, where the other siblings can ride bikes and together they can all be enjoying, and gives them a sense of normalcy that they didn't have before. And so when you see that stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, that's what it's all about. It's just amazing.
It is the best. And it really is like, I usually get it for notes from the parents or videos from the parents. They'll make a video of the kid riding the bike with their siblings, And it's like, oh my gosh, that is fantastic.
The best.
And there's so many events that we do. And we help all different sectors, just like LATLC.
Yeah.
And so that is so rewarding. And I would strongly encourage anybody from any county. And I have had people reach out and ask for input, and we will share all of the information on all of our knowledge and resources to help somebody.
Yeah. And we have an expansion committee with LATLC, and we're looking at you, San Francisco. You're next. San Francisco TLC. Do I hear San Diego TLC? You guys are up.
Inland Empire.
There's a lot of people that need our help out there. And also, if you're an attorney or a vendor or someone in the legal community that cares about giving back to the community and you're in the Orange County area, sign up to volunteer, sign up to donate, sign up for the events for OCTLC. Michelle West, President 2024. The best. She'll bring you in. She'll find what your passion is. She'll help you help the community. And there's no better person to work with. So make sure you sign up. What's the website?
OCTLC.org.
OCTLC.org. Don't forget about LATLC if you're in the LA area, LATLC.org. Both organizations have amazing events planned for this year. It's awesome that we get to be president of these organizations the same year. And it really is a privilege to be working on stuff with you.
I know. I'm so excited. It's going to be a great year. I can't wait. I really can't.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to transition now to our last segment, which is maybe a little bit more like of the introspective questions I'm going to ask you about your work as a prominent attorney. As a woman who is at the top of the legal industry, both in and out of the courtroom with everything you do, what are some pieces of advice you can share with female attorneys specifically that are striving to achieve success in their own practice?
I heard this 20 years ago, and I didn't really believe it, and I should have listened probably 20 years ago. But the truth is, you will become who you were meant to be when you actually just are the person. Just be yourself. And I know we've all heard this, but for much of your first few years of practice, I feel like you are trying to emulate someone else, or you're being told, don't do this, don't act like this. And once you can find a place where you can be yourself and practice your way, I really think that that's when you will excel and you can achieve anything. You don't need to, you can have it all. You may not be able to have it all at the exact same time, but like you can. I've seen many successful women have families. I've seen many successful trial lawyers. You really can have it all, and you just have to let yourself focus on yourself. Don't worry too much about what other people are doing. Set your goal for yourself and just work towards that. You can scroll a lot, and you can be almost intimidated or I don't know. You don't want to get sidetracked or discouraged or compare yourself to other people and their results. You really just have to create your vision, your goal, and then create the life as a lawyer that you want. And I think that we're a lot more open to that now. I think, back when I was in law school, and I don't know, I mean, it's been a while. I've been a lawyer for 20 years. So, we were told you have to wear this black skirt, and you can only go to trial in this black skirt. And I think now there's a lot more flexibility and understanding. Like you really can be yourself. I went to trial with Ashley Lakin, and she likes to wear dresses when she's in trial, and she looks great, and she's a great lawyer, and she's going to be herself, and she's going to do a great job because she's being herself.
Right.
And I like to wear pantsuits, and that's just what I like to do. And I'm going to be more comfortable and do a better job because it's okay. You can be yourself. I think as a lawyer, a female lawyer especially, you're told you can't wear this, you can't wear these shoes, you can't, show your legs, you can't show too much leg. It's almost like the Barbie movie,
right.
There's that
or
scene.
Like, the male attorney is, getting confrontational with the witness, but, they'll tell female attorneys don't do that because you're going to come off as, the wrong way to the jury. Like I imagine a lot of extra layers there that you have to unpack as a female in the courtroom.
That's true.
That men don't even have to think twice about. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, not at all. And it's 100% true. We still have to deal with that. You get aggressive, then you're a bitch. That's just how it is. You're not allowed to do it. So we always have to be mindful of that because it's true. It still exists. It absolutely, and if it affects our client, we have to deal with it.
Right.
But being comfortable with yourself and being okay with being the female that you are and embracing your style, a jury is going to respect you and they're going to see that you're genuine.
Yeah.
And that's when you're going to do your best work. And, the clients who select you will select you because you're genuine. And that's when you're going to do your best work.
Yeah.
And, the people who don't select you, that's okay because there's no scarcity, there's abundance. There's another lawyer who's a better fit for them.
Yeah.
And so just embracing that, your style, and, for years in the product liability litigation, I've had the great pleasure of dealing with, on the other side, opposing counsel who are mostly very intelligent and very professional. There are some who are very aggressive, very mean, and not my style. They like to fight. They like to name call. And, at some point in my career, I just stopped a deposition once and said, stop this bad behavior. This isn't my style. I'm not going to have my case like this. We're not going to put witnesses through this. I said, cut this out. And that defense attorney did. It was almost like the bullying stopped when I said, stop the bullying. Like it's not going to happen anymore. And I've been lucky that I haven't ever wanted, it's not my style. I'm not going to yell at people. It's just not how I am. And once you just accept your style and you just embrace it and go with it, I think that this is a long career and it's an endurance event, and you need to be who you are so that you can be comfortable in your skin and do your best work for your client. So
it's interesting that you say that because as you're talking, I'm thinking about a couple things. Number one is obviously for anyone that does trial work and studies, the great trial lawyers that came before, the Jerry Spences and things like that, the messaging is always about, you have to be your authentic self because the jury is never going to sympathize with your client unless they believe you talking about your client, and they can't believe you talking about your client unless they believe that you're really being true to yourself. So when you say that, I'm thinking to myself, that's really good advice for any trial lawyer, but specifically for females. I think it's amazing because they're, for all the quote unquote, like, sort of, extra hills that are, or roadblocks that are put in front of females in a, traditionally male dominated industry. If a female attorney is being her authentic, true self, there's a lot of power in that in the courtroom. And I remember I had a trial, now it's probably been 7 years ago, out in San Bernardino, a multi-party case. We actually settled during jury selection when the insurance company saw what I was doing with picking the jury. They upped their offer and we ended up not doing the full trial. But during jury selection, I was on the plaintiff side, and the main defendant had a very experienced ABOTA older male attorney representing them. And then the kind of secondary non-main defendant had a female insurance defense counsel who was a little bit on the younger, less experienced side. And she did something really memorable in my mind that I thought about as you were talking. Is she got up after I did my thing and the main defense attorney did his thing during voir dire, and she got up in front of the jury and she said, my name is such and such, and you've heard from Mr. Wallace and you've heard from Mr. Defense Attorney here, and both of which are extremely experienced and a lot more experienced than me. And I don't have a lot of experience, but I have a client and I believe in my client and I'm here to represent them. And so I'm going to ask you some questions. But she let the wall down and was just really real with the jury. Like, I'm not as experienced as them, but I know what I'm doing and I'm prepared. And I'm here to represent my client. And the jury totally responded to her. They were like enamored with her. And I'm sitting there and looking at the other defense attorney. And I'm like she just took over, and it was powerful. Yeah. Because she was just honest and truthful to the jury. And she wasn't trying to be someone else. She wasn't trying to be like us. And it was really powerful. So, to your point, like, you just got to be yourself. But talk about, I want to segue a little bit. Obviously, the being authentic to yourself is really important. I feel like there's another component to achieving the kind of success that you've achieved, which is you got to have like an underlying just drive or hustle or grit or however you want to describe it. Talk about that for you, like where that sort of comes from and what continues to drive you to work so hard to help your clients, and what advice you can give to other younger attorneys out there who are looking to get to that next level and sort of emulate some of those habits.
It's a really good question. For me, it probably, that drive and that grit, it probably comes from childhood. And honestly, I grew up in a big family, and just really, my mom always emphasized, putting others first, which I know is not popular in our society. It's all about self-care, which I totally believe in, and I agree. But I am a much better advocate for others, I'll be honest, than for myself. And I am willing to put in the time and work the hard hours and put up with a lot because I really care about somebody else. So being a trial lawyer, being a plaintiff lawyer really makes sense for me. I don't know that I could work as hard and do as much. You know how it is when you meet that client the first time. I'll never forget. I was tasked with an impossible product liability case, and I just thought, there's no way I can't do this case. It's impossible. But I met the client who was a young 8-year-old boy who had been brain injured in a crash, and we had like a seatbelt theory. And it was a very tough case. But, once I met that young man, a boy at the time, and then later became a young man by the time the case resolved, once you meet them, it's like, oh my gosh, like there's nothing that you wouldn't do. You know, I'm going to work all the hours. I'm going to do everything I can. And that's really what it is. It's like you will put that person first. You are doing everything for that person. I mean, all of us trial lawyers, we put, you know, there are times you don't see your family for dinner, you miss birthday parties, you miss holidays.
Totally.
And the reason is for that client, you know, that young man, I mean, I still know his mom was his caregiver after the incident, but you really are working to essentially improve their life, you know?
And obviously, you know, the work that we do is contingency fee practice, meaning we don't get paid unless we deliver a result for the client. And then our attorney fee is a percentage of whatever we recover. But, and so a lot of people look at that as, you know, oh, the money hungry trial lawyers that are just looking to make money off of other people's misery and all this other stuff. But the reality is, number one, is that whenever you're getting a product that you only have to pay for if you are getting the result, you know that that product is going to be working really hard for you because they don't get paid unless they win. So the interests are aligned with the client. But also beyond that, I'm thinking about, as you're talking, like the most successful trial lawyers that I know, people like you, other people in the industry, are not successful because their main focus is money. They're successful because they are willing to work hard for someone else and put someone else's case as like the priority of their professional work. And the money is the result, but it's not sustainable if you're only in it for the money, because it is such hard work and it is so demanding and it is so time consuming and it requires so much personal and family self-sacrifice that you're only going to stay in it if you're doing it for the right reasons. And it's the people that are doing it for the right reasons that are ones that have the most success from what I've seen.
It's so true. It really is, you know, meeting the clients. And it's very stressful what we do because, you know, I'm going to survive whether I win or lose the case. But there are clients who honestly may not survive if I don't win the case. I mean, I've had cases where, you know, I needed 24-hour care for my client. She was experiencing bed sores and I needed to get a result for her and I needed to get it now. You know, those are stressful. I've had the case with the young man who his mom was his caregiver because we couldn't afford to get other caregivers. Right. And the doctors were saying, you know, when I would call them about depositions or something or scheduling, they would say, this mom is going to die if you can't help her. And it's like, that is a heavy burden. And it's also one that you take, it's a burden, but it's also rewarding because, you know, like you're really fighting to save somebody's life. That's really what you're doing a lot of times in these catastrophic injury cases.
Right.
And thank God, most of the time we are able to get a recovery for them. And most of the time I'm still able to tell you where that client, you know, we were able to resolve it. And she has, you know, and a lot of them will still stay in touch with you and they'll let you know, thank you. I now have a motorized wheelchair. I got to see my kid's baseball game. That's all I really cared about. I have a house that is modified for my needs that I can get in.
I've had clients invite me to family barbecues and things after the case is done, just because of the relationship that you form. And the clients see how hard you've worked and they are very grateful and they recognize that because they know if not for Michelle's work on my case, I may not have been able to have this or that, or, you know, the kind of care that we need for our family.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that is really the drive. That's where it comes from. It's really from serving others. And if you have an attitude of service, if you grew up with an attitude of service, I mean, that's why we're both involved with the Trial Lawyers Charities. If you have that drive to serve others, if you have the drive to help others, I really think that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
I really do. And then what I've also noticed is the way that you can deal with which is a lot of stress. It's also why I started doing a lot of the running events, right? So the running events are something like, it's a release of a lot of the stress. It allows you physically to deal with it. But
it's a form of meditation too. It gives you a chance to think about stuff.
Yeah. And then those running events, believe it or not, have become something that people are inspired by them. And I'm okay with that. I used to think it was like, oh, it seems like I'm talking about myself. No, people like it. They tell you they're inspired by it. And so it's like, if you embrace all of the gifts that you, for whatever reason, have been given and you're able to provide to others, it's a great life. You give. We've been given so much, and so now we can give back. We have this great endurance to survive these cases as trial lawyers, and then this great endurance to run and, use our bodies to do something good. And even all the charity work that we do for LATLC, showing up and, painting. I know we've done painting events for clinics and
all sorts of
gardening, everything. So, the fact that we get to use our minds and bodies to do all this good and serve others, I think that's just the attitude and the wanting to serve others is how I think that you can serve, really motivates you and keeps you going in this business.
All right. Well, so for all you aspiring trial lawyers and aspiring badasses out there who are looking to Michelle for that sage wisdom and advice, you heard it here first. Be yourself and put others first and work hard. And there's no magic pill.
No.
Right? It's just hard work and punching the clock every day and setting goals and taking a bite out of the elephant one day at a time. And you do that. And listen, we have a legend in the house, Michelle West. It was such a pleasure to have you on the show. One of our best podcasts we ever had. And couldn't say thank you enough. And for everyone out there, thank you for joining in. This has been the Wallace Wins Podcast, and we hope to see you on the next one. Thank you, everybody.
Get your win at wallacewins.com.